Hi, David Oda here, the Dallas SEO Geek, and this video is a review of a video I shot 18 months ago in December of 2014 about the Undying SEO Principles. I said in there, here's some principles that are going to be true, not just now, but many years into the future, and have been true for the most part for many years in the past. And so this is just a checkup. 18 months later, are they still valid? They should definitely still be valid. One thing to understand here is part of what makes things unchanging for a lot of people is even with major updates, usually about 1% or less of the search results are affected. So you could go through 10 major updates and not see a blip of a change on your site. And so that's something to keep in mind because these updates usually don't affect a whole lot of results. It's pretty rare nowadays that things change a lot. So why do I have a picture of a McDonald's cheeseburger? That's because one thing to consider is McDonald's going to suddenly change their cheeseburger? Are they going to stop selling cheeseburgers and sell goat burgers instead? Well, no. This is kind of like the core of their business is the cheeseburger, and well, Google's algorithm is the core of their business. They're not going to make massive changes to their algorithm in general. You know, they do make updates and improvements, but it's not going to be wildly different in a year from now. Okay, so far so good, and this actually has nothing to do with some of the stuff I said. So there's 3 pillars to SEO, and that covers all the different things that I talked about in the video, and I'm going to go over them more individually, but generally there's 3 main things that if you do these well, then you'll rank well. On page, off page, and engagement. Okay, and those 3 things together encapsulate lots of different activities. Pretty much anything you think of, it encapsulates. All the things below it will encapsulate. But if you do those things well, or vice versa, some people, they think you can just do on page. I'm going to talk about that and rank really well. And while that can happen, it is unlikely to. So it's about maximizing your chances for success. Relevancy, this was in the video, is it still important? Yes, it's still very important. In fact, I think it's a little bit more important, and Google continues to try to incorporate this and understand it better. But it's still difficult to check precisely. Technically, things that are interconnected could still be connected. They can have weird connections, and so Google allows for things that are not relevant to still be able to give relevancy that are outside what they normally would be able to give. Okay, but overall isn't important. Would you, if you wanted to rank your site about injury lawyers, you wouldn't put a bunch of dentist content on there, a bunch of stuff about teeth. Okay, and that's obviously important. Also for your links, if all your links are about dentists, but then you're trying to rank your site for injury lawyer, then it's going to be very difficult. Simple on page. I've shot several videos and talked many times about how technically the on page is pretty simple, and you don't need to go into too much detail. And this is something that is a common amateur mistake when you have web designers or people who are just starting at SEO or people who are just using sort of like the really common canned version of SEO out there. They just do on page and they do a lot of minutia on there. There's so many little things they try to do to check off. I'm moving, therefore I'm making progress, which is not true. Most of the battle happens with just a few simple things: your titles, your URLs, and your interlinking. You do those 3 things well, engagements aside. Assume Google doesn't have any engagement metrics on you, and your site is generally engaging, then that's all you really need to do. From an on-page technical standpoint, that is most of the battle. And so, if people are going in there and, image tags, that's technically that's important, but it's very minor, and there's a lot of stuff like that. If they're talking a lot about your meta tags and your H1s, and that stuff can affect things, and it's something that you want to look at eventually, but it's not where you start for sure. And it's a lot of times that is only going to have minor effects. It's not going to really make or break you unless you do something really wrong. Engagement metrics, so important. So I have Trump here, and I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about like a Trump card. This is the ultimate Trump. If your site is super engaging when Google sends you traffic from its search engines, that is a Trump card. Okay, and you can lose all your links, and you can be spammed. You could have a competitor spam you, and if you have high engagement and you've already got that traffic and Google's sending you there, it's going to be pretty stinking hard to knock you off, okay? And this goes pretty deep, and this goes to videos. So this is why videos are so important. People just click on them and be engaged. And even if you get them to watch a video for 30 seconds, a lot of times that's a win right there. That's more than some of your other competitors will get. And it's a certain amount of engagement. And on vice versa, if you had a really, really ugly site, or for whatever reason it really turned off your market, Google sends visitors there, they bounce back immediately and look for more in the search results, you're not going to be ranking there for very long. Or you're going to have to really make up for that in other ways. It's going to be very expensive. And so, this doesn't mean you have to have the perfect site that you're constantly tweaking to get perfect. Well, you can do that. It just means that you don't want to really fail in this area. And then also you can make it pretty easy on yourself just by making videos. So links. Is off-page popularity still important? Yes. Google tests this. They test in-house algorithms that don't incorporate links. And guess what? Their search results are much worse. And this is one of the main things that made Google their money and grabbed all their market share. In the late 90s, no one else was really doing that, or they were doing it to a much, much less degree than what Google did. Google came in and their search results, lo and behold, were much, much better. So do you think they're going to come in and turn this off? No, just not anytime soon. Maybe the way they look at them will get a little different. They'll get a bit more sophisticated. They'll kind of turn some dials here and turn some, but still, you need this. And this is, again, goes back to the amateur mistake. They just do the on-page, and then they don't do any off-page, and so, the site just sits there. Okay, it's not popular. You need to show Google that you're popular, and without that, you're not going to rank for anything competitive. Yeah, sometimes for the low competition stuff, you can rank with just on-page. Or you can get lucky, and maybe you'll get something shared, or whatever. There's other things that can happen. But if you want to dramatically increase the chances that you'll rank highly for valuable search phrases, then you need some off-page. Site structure. This is also in the video. All these were in the video. Still important and useful? Well, yeah, over the last 10 years, it's been important. Okay, what is site structure? If you haven't watched the video, it's essentially how your pages are interlinked. I talked about that. And if you look at it like this is your home page, these are maybe your main categories for your site, and here's your subcategories. And these arrows are links, okay? And what's important here is not to link these two together, okay? And not to link this page to this page. And what ends up happening, there's more to it than that, but what ends up happening when you do this right, it creates little pockets of relevance that make it so that you don't need as many links to rank, and it just makes it a lot easier to rank for the low volume search phrases. So a lot of people, they just try to rank their home page for their top 3 or 5 terms, and while that can work, it's a lot harder. It's just you're setting up more work for yourself, and you got the same 80% of people going for the same 20% of traffic. Okay, I like to target that other 80% of traffic that nobody's really targeting, along with the other 20% that people are targeting, and you just get a whole bunch of win because of that. So, in conclusion, the Undying Principles are still alive and pretty much exactly as they were at their core. I think Google is looking forward even more at engagement, and they're trying to gather more data and analyze more data on that. So that's still important, and again, it's the trump card. But you can't start with engagement, right? Because you don't have any traffic when you first launch your site. So it's tough to get, but if you can get it, that's really great. And there's other ways to get traffic other than through the search engines. But that's if you have a highly engaging site and you can get that traffic from Google, and then they definitely see it, and then that's going to help you a lot for sure across a lot of search phrases. So let me know if you have any questions, or if you want me to look at the unchanging principles for your website. Submit a discovery form and we can go from there. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.